There are stairs down there. Oh shit.
I'm sure just about all of you have heard of the backrooms, and if you haven't, I'm honestly surprised. Not that this video is about the backrooms, but about another series made by the same creator, Kane Pixels, who I believe still has a movie with A24 coming out, which is actually insane to think about. I actually watched a decent amount of the backrooms, but couldn't tell you anything about this one, The Oldest View. I've seen the figure around here and there, but I never sat and watched the series. But with 5 entries out, I figured, why not see what this is all about? If anything, I expect to see a lot of what I really liked about the backrooms and Liminal Land. The 3D set pieces that they are able to convey are just perfect. It creates a sort of pit in my stomach just thinking about being there. That feeling of no escape, being trapped in this frightening setting for eternity, and more likely than not, something else is with you. Heavily relying on this nostalgia core style with places like amusement parks, shopping centers, or office buildings. Needless to say, I am pretty excited to see what this guy is able to show off with this one, and I have high hopes for this.
But before I let you get too far, just wanted to say if you're new here and enjoy what you're watching, be sure to hit all those neat buttons down below as it really helps support the channel. And if you want to see more, be sure to follow us on Instagram and Letterboxd. Alright, now you can pass through.
The Oldest View, Renewal, Entry 1. Honestly, it didn't take very long for me to understand how this guy got a movie. At first, it appears as if only our character is out of color, but as we pull away, we can see other flowers appear the same. He picks the flower off and walks away. He makes his way through the woods until he sits himself down on a log and pulls out a book. We don't get to see what he's reading, but we pan up slowly and fade into our next scene. Looks like we've got an arts and crafts guy here. We watch as whoever this is constructs this mask out of cardboard. Pretty impressive work. Perhaps this is like The Mask, and whoever puts it on becomes green and crazy. I imagined I would be left with many questions by the end of this first entry, and I would like answers ASAP. Beneath the Earth, Entry 2. The entry begins and it looks as if we're going to be following a similar pattern to the first one, but as if skipping ahead to the next video, we cut to what appears to be a vlog series on YouTube. We're introduced to Wyatt, and it sounds like he has found something he finds quite interesting that he wants to show us. After walking through the woods for a bit, we are taken to this mysterious hole in the ground. What immediately caught my attention is the fact that for a brief moment, it looks like this hole is unfathomably deep. He says the first time he found it, he thought it was just a cave, but after taking a closer look, there are stairs, and they lead quite far down. He climbs inside and reports how it looks like the stairs used to go further up, and the fact the lights are still on means something is still in operation. Another thing to notice is that once we got in the hole, all that nice music we had in the beginning stopped.
Is that all the lights, these lights are on.
You don't appreciate things until they're gone, I guess. When it looks like we are about to reach the end, it's revealed that it's just a corner and they go even further. There are occasional jump cuts while walking down the stairs, so it's unclear exactly how far this goes. This man is a lot braver than I am because I wouldn't have even gone into the hole. Once we get down far enough, it looks like we have finally reached the final step. He takes an image of the door he finds before opening it up and heading even further. This looks like the location of the first Saw movie. Oddly enough, ambient music can be heard playing above. And through this gate, it looks kind of like a big empty shopping center. He crawls under the gate and looks around to find that it's a mall. I know it's the obvious question, but why is there a mall this far underground? Before we go any further, the entry abruptly comes to a close. I'm guessing somewhere in this mall is where our giant lurks. It's at this moment, however, where I would have ran back up the stairs and told someone else to take care of it. The Rolling Giant, Entry 3. Our entry begins back at a familiar forest setting, but we quickly cut right back to Wyatt. He says that he has frequently gone back to visit the hole, but since the last video, he hasn't been inside. Instead of never going back again like a sensible man, he sets up some motion cameras to see if he can catch anything or anyone coming in and out of the hole. Unfortunately, nothing ends up coming up on the cameras, but this makes him feel a bit better about going back down since it seems to be completely abandoned. So he plans to head on back to film a part 2 of his journey. He makes it to the hole, and nothing seems out of the ordinary since last he's checked, so it's time to head back down. Once we're at the stairs, he points out one of the lights had gone out since he last checked, and after trying to do some research, he learns that it's just a random family who owns this land. I doubt they know they have an entire mall underneath the property. When setting up the cameras, he said he hung around a bit to try and find any sign of construction or even just people, but found nothing. He has discovered a very big secret. He also frequently says that it smells like cut grass. He says it here, and he said it in the last entry as well. Once he approaches the gate, we notice that the music is no longer there, but he manages to get it opened, however the sound freaks him out. He goes all the way back up the stairs before stopping and deciding the risk is worth it. He hypes himself back up and heads back in, this time going even further than before. Turns out, it is actually just a mall, but why all the way down here? I was about to ask if this had some type of backrooms connection, but Wyatt answered it for me.
This is literally like the backrooms from TikTok.
It's funny and frightening to think about because if the backrooms is just an internet video here, then this is the real world. The first major clue we can find is this sign that reads Valley View Center at Dallas Midtown. Interestingly enough, after looking it up, this is a real mall. Abandoned, but it was real. I gotta say, the environment in this so far has been unreal. If I didn't know any better, I could be fooled that this was somehow on set. He continues to walk further and further in, and I can't help but feel we are already lost. Our next point of interest is this sign that has a familiar friend right in the middle. The face has quite the resemblance to the mask we saw getting carved in the first entry, and I don't really like the flower hands. He makes a point that a lot of these shops are actually art studios, and a lot of Texas shops. I mean, it is a Texas mall. But not long after, however, we are met with quite the tense scene.
That scared the shit out of me.
It sounds like the power is back on, the music starts back up, and lights begin to flicker on. He tries to keep himself in the dark just in case, but it looks like we found our exit. Better just run for it. However, we are met with quite the haunting reveal.
Oh my god. We're done. We're out.
The stairs have been reduced to rubble. What could have caused this? Whatever it is, we are in a fucked situation. What's worse? No clipping reality and winding up in an infinite office building? Or getting buried a mile underground in an abandoned shopping mall? I'd say the shopping mall would at least be more entertaining to look at as I slowly perish away. But there has to be another exit somewhere. We see another exit sign and decide to try that direction. However, once we get to the end, we're just met with a rock wall. We are truly caved in. This reminds me of that one SpongeBob episode where Plankton tries to have the chum bucket be underground, and in the very end, everyone gets caved into the Krusty Krab. As a kid, that never sat right with me. We walk around to try and find some other exit, but it almost sounds like heavy winds outside alongside some of the lights going out.
There's gotta be another way out.
And once again, we're met with a familiar face. Thought to be just a statue, we go to get a closer look, but it vanishes around the corner. Perhaps Wyatt is losing his mind. We time skip a little bit and we're at a directory, still desperate to find a way out. Still have no clue what purpose of this place could possibly be, but perhaps that's part of the fear. How could something so familiar looking be in a place so unfamiliar? We approach a gated off artist studio, and when we get a closer look, it appears to be some sort of nature exhibit as it looks like dirt and plants litter the area. But before we can look for too long, it sounds like some sort of movement occurs somewhere in the mall. At this point, we would like to bump into a person, but with our luck, we end up bumping into something else. After getting a good look, Wyatt goes to walk off, but when he looks away, our giant starts to move again. Is this like a weeping angel? It won't move if stared at? I gotta be honest, once this giant is in the mix, tensions are high. Wyatt runs up the escalator and that seems to do the trick. How would this guy even get up them? He rolls off in defeat, and I recommend never going back down to that level. However, for some reason, maybe he saw it in the directory, he runs back down and is met with yet another cave-in. What were you expecting this time? Luckily, he's able to break down a boarded up door and run inside one of the shops, but this doesn't stop our giant as he just smashes his way in. We wind up in some sort of back hallway area and close ourselves in one of the rooms. I just don't foresee any way out of this. We cut across the mall and end up finding ourselves in some kind of management area. Now this might have something for us. On one of the tables, we can see a street tree diagram. Why this is down here, who knows? However, off to the side, we can see a big outline for the mall. Using the map, we are able to locate where we are in the mall. Maybe we can find an exit finally. We continue walking through this back office, and Wyatt captures footage of all the pictures on the wall. The more and more we explore, the more confused I get. Luckily, we stumble on a stack of papers that could give us the info we need. In the event that primary exit routes become inaccessible, please refer to document 183-71905. Let's just hope this takes into consideration the fact we're underground. The document is thankfully nearby as we find another map of the mall that has all the emergency exits marked. If I'm reading this right, it looks like it all leads to the AMC level. Wyatt is fully ready to bump into some people behind all this.
Talk to whoever. It's just a misunderstanding. I didn't realize what this was.
However, once we go to walk back into the open mall, we see this sign off to the side that reads, "Do you accept this impermanence?" What's gonna happen on the other side of this door? We go through and it looks like the same mall, but very different. As if it's been abandoned for so long that nature is starting to invest. Is this like an alternate mall? Wyatt makes a run for it for the stairs, but this time, the giant is ready. He manages to hit the stairs on the other side, but wouldn't you know it, the elevator is out of order. But there's a rooftop exit still available. I don't know how, given we're underground, but it's the only shot we have. It also looks like our giant has gotten an upgrade because he managed to make it up the stairs. The lights flicker once he's made it up, and when they do, we can briefly see 2 dead horses and it looks like 3 dead people all across the floor, before vanishing again with the light. It's either the dangerous rooftop exit or the giant. It does appear that there's a little hole up in the roof. Perhaps that's our exit. The giant tries to completely topple the structure, but ends up rolling away. Now it's just up to Wyatt to not slip, and, well, wouldn't you know. I thought the entry was going to end off there, but we got a little something at the end that didn't answer any questions, but it certainly raised some eyebrows. You see, I was wondering if the guy we saw in the first entry was Wyatt, but now we can see that they are 2 different people. But it's very clear that Wyatt is in the same area or predicament our character at the beginning was. In fact, Wyatt is sort of in color at first, but it slowly fades away, perhaps to signify his passing. We then cut to see the giant watching us from afar, also without color. Now we do have 2 more entries in this series, so I don't know if those will answer anything or if this is what we will still be left to work with. But it's clear this series is definitely going to be up to personal interpretation, which is really neat. I love the idea that everyone who watches this gets a different understanding of it. What is my understanding of it? I'm not sure yet. Life of a Giant. Entry 4. I am not sure what to make of this entry. At first it seems like a music video, but it almost feels like an in memoriam. We start out on the construction of the mask we saw in the first entry, as it slowly evolves and becomes the full statue as we know it. And we see our giant in a very different light. In the last entry, he was a very menacing foe, but in this one we see people standing with him, taking pictures, and overall having a good time. As we discovered earlier, this is a real mall, and this is a real art piece. This entry kind of displays the sense of time passing. What was once a lively mall became desolate and empty over time. We flash to articles about the dwindling popularity, and we can see as this mall just became abandoned, even demolished as we see it getting torn down. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but it then looks like our giant gets disassembled along with it. And then we flash to a photo of this French botanist from the 19th century, and things are starting to click together a bit more. The statue was built to be based around him, and what's even cooler is that this was all once a part of a real parade held in Dallas, and the statue as a whole is just a huge honoring of him. It's super neat to learn, so I'm curious to know how this is meant to relate to Wyatt and his discovery of this limbo version of the mall. The last thing we see in this entry is the leftover rubble from the destruction. And interestingly enough, it looks like those stairs that we were walking down. He did say they looked like they used to go further up. Even though we're about to be 5 entries in, I still am not sure just what to make of this. Dispersal, Entry 5. We open up and we are back at the bottom of the stairs, facing the doorway we went initially through. Except this time, it looks to still be overgrown. The door slowly creaks open, and it looked almost mystical with this doorway out in the middle of nowhere. Is this the forest our characters appear to be trapped in? We end up abruptly cutting to this Dallas Midtown meeting, and it sounded like just an update on some infrastructure plans, and as the people start to leave, we cut back to that empty forest. We then see Wyatt still laying dead on the floor. Through the black frame, it looks like light is slowly burning its way through, and when the light shines down more, we see it begins to show the giant looking up at it. We cut to black, and the next segment has me quite confused. We are back on the ceiling. Guess we gotta run this back. Now it's just up to Wyatt to not slip. And, well, wouldn't you know. In an unexpected turn of events, Wyatt manages to make it through the hole. I know those legs must be sore from all these stairs, but that does not matter now. We just gotta hope there's an actual exit at the top of these. We can see that tiny shimmer of hope at the top that we just might make it. And would you look at that? We made it. Wyatt runs across the field, and I can't imagine he knows where he is. He came out of a different exit, God knows where. We end up getting text that just reads, "Anatomically modern humans have existed for approximately 300,000 years. Recorded history accounts for roughly 1.6% of this time. Guess there's still a whole lot out there we have no idea about." Wyatt miraculously finds his car. We cut to black and we can only assume he drove off, but the scene we get to end this entry off shows this is definitely not over. Now I don't know about you, but that was not a car's POV. I recognize those wheels anywhere. So is our giant now out of the mall and still on the hunt for Wyatt? That's definitely what it looks like. But why would he go all this way to hunt him down? I believe it's definitely possible our rolling giant didn't really have any evil intentions at all. He definitely comes off as very intimidating at first, and he does smash the building up a little bit when Wyatt is on the ceiling, but given what we saw in Life of a Giant, it could just be the giant was just shocked to see somebody for the first time in God knows how long. Something I also noticed while looking back through the third entry might have been the clue we needed to create a sustainable theory. When Wyatt climbs up on the ceiling, you can see a body way down below, exactly where he falls later. Going ahead to entry 5, and he's still there, even when Wyatt escapes. I believe this underground mall, somehow, someway, exists outside of time, as in it periodically can shift into different points. We can see it when the mall occasionally looks lively with the lights all on, and then it almost looks like we jump ahead a bit when all the plants are everywhere and it just looks all run down. Perhaps that forest setting that we see our characters in at the beginning is just way ahead but still stuck in the mall. But it's just at a point when the mall had been destroyed and it's now just the forest left over. It could also be way before the mall was even built. If this area does exist this way, it's possible the man we see in the first entry is an older Wyatt. That may sound silly given we saw Wyatt escape, but we also continually see a dead Wyatt laying down below. Also, given the entry being titled Dispersal, I wouldn't be surprised if these mall effects carry over to the person who entered it, and how Wyatt as a being has been endlessly dispersed. Whether or not this is the moment he becomes dispersed, who knows? It's possible that Wyatt just endlessly dies over and over until perhaps the giant or the mall intervenes and makes it to where he can escape. There definitely seems to be a big theme of abandonment and overall being forgotten littered all around this series. The biggest example of this would be The Life of a Giant, where we can see the statue in a much more positive light, and over time it just fell off and people forgot. The giant's actions in entry 3 could be seen more as acts of desperation to be remembered again, Well, I can imagine Wyatt is going to be sharing this footage to the entire world, so you can bet this giant is not going to be forgotten anytime soon. And it's really neat how the series on the outside works in that way as well. This statue is now back in popularity thanks to this. And it didn't take it and just make it completely scary and frightening, but it respected it and almost seems to have been an honor for the design. I can also appreciate the interpretiveness of the series as well. I'm sure my theories are so off from what is true, but hey, it's fun to bounce them around and think of all the possibilities, because with this one, they're endless. If you haven't already seen it, I highly recommend watching The Oldest View, as I found it to be truly something special. I'm still always blown away by the 3D environments this man is able to put us through, as it looks so real and it's overall super impressive. Literally nothing stands out as CGI in this, and that is something to be proud of. I love the way it manages to incorporate its themes of being forgotten and how it manages to end more hopefully with Wyatt escaping and the memory living on. I really hope we get more entries to this, as it feels like there's a lot more that can be explored. If our character in the beginning isn't a future Wyatt, then I need to know more. But if you made it all the way to the end, I thank you all for watching. Be sure to hit all those neat buttons down below, as it really helps to support the channel. And without further ado, I found this hole outside with a set of stairs, and I think I'm gonna go check it out.